flowers, right? Yeah, absolutely. She had tomatoes like this, you know, and he had dahlias like that. I mean, it was their forte. Do you remember when Dad had the back end of his car full of bees? What? He stopped at a gas station.
Here, you hold it.
And the bees got loose.
Leave it right here so you can kind of see their face.
Did he mean to have them in there?
He had hives and that's one thing he was fairly good at.
Yeah, he had honey. And he loved bees. And
He loved bees.
so he had these bees in the trunk. And the guy that was supposed to give him gas on those darn tea hoses, and he refused to service them. Yeah.
The bees got loose. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Dad was always into some kind of trouble with his farming.
Yeah, it sounds like he had a lot of get-rich-quick schemes.
Well,
don't I?
over in Sherman, his father,
Recording.
breeder.
Or wanted to, but I doubt Grandpa was much of a farmer, right? He was a teacher.
That doggy. Favorite stories?
Things that happen.
Yeah.
Well, the one Loren likes is, we had a clothes shoot, and so he dropped a sheet from upstairs down the clothes sheet, and I'd stand down below there. The sheet would fold over me, and then I'd act like a ghost. But I think he ran out of sheet, so he decided to send a potted plant down. And it lit on my head and knocked me out colder than cold.
I think that's why Loren liked it, not her.
Yeah.
Loren's favorite.
Tell him the one about the birthday cake.
Oh yeah, I had about a 6-layer. I asked Mom if I could make as many layers as I wanted, so I think I had a chocolate layer, a pink layer, a white layer, a yellow layer. Man, that cake was about like that. And then I put a 7-minute frosting on it, but I didn't cook it long enough and it wouldn't get hard like it was supposed to. So I set it in the window so it could cool off. Loren come along after I set it there for a minute or two and found a net on the frosting. So he goes to get the net out, and the whole cake fell out the window.
Oh. That sounds like a likely story.
Who's the thing to open more?
My favorite.
But I think the cutest story was my dad wasn't much of a talker, but he's very much of a worker.
Oh yeah.
And he was busy painting the upstairs of our house, and I was down below practicing on the piano. Well, I kept making the same darn mistake over and over, and so Dad was working with a painter up there, and not having said a word for about 2 hours, all of a sudden, that mistake got on Dad's nerves, and he said, Alice! And the poor painter come fell off the scaffold, the paint cans were right behind him. And I was sitting there at the piano, I think, boy, I think I better leave him alone.
Phyllis, I think he said, do that over again.
Yeah.
And Mr. Shook was painting with he thought he meant him and it scared him. So he fell off the hammock.
It was such a shock because, you know, Dad never said a word for hours, then all of a sudden, back again.
My favorite story concerns this one. We were all so mad at her. I think you know which one I'm going to tell. My dad worked nights. He had to sleep days. And yeah, she knows what's coming up. And you'd be surprised. I mean, gee, there were 6 kids, you know, in the house, but we had to keep quiet so he could sleep somewhat quiet. Well, we horsed around and horsed around. Too much noise. Dad came down the scattered, and he was yelling, and we all scattered in every which direction under the sun. Well, Edie and I were so stupid that right at the foot of the stairs was where we hung our clothes closet. You know, you come in the front door and hang your clothes in the closet. But stupid us, we ran in and buried our heads under the coat, which of course leaves our derriere exposed beautifully for a sweetheart. So that took care of two of us, you know. Everybody went in every which direction. Ralph was smart. They had in the dining area, Mother had, now it was almost like what they call a hope chest. It was where they would hang their linen and put their tablecloths and everything, you know, and you lift the cover up, remember it?
A window seat.
Okay, and so Ralph dove into that, and of course, Dad figured that one out pretty easy. He reached and pulled him out when he got his whipping. I don't know where Loren hid.
Loren said he just come in from outside and that's why him stopped spanking him. He didn't do it.
He hit him. He just walked in and out. Okay, so that took care of it. Well, there was just one left, you know. Well, she ran into it. We had a broom closet. Just, no, it was an ironing board, wasn't it? A broom closet.
Broom closet.
Okay, so anyhow, there was room. So she opened up the door and dashed in there and pulled the door shut. Okay, so Dad couldn't find her for anything. He couldn't. So when he disappeared, bang, bang, hey guys, let me out. Forget it. You can just spend the rest of your life in the room.
They were blackmailing me from then on. If you don't do this, I'm going to tell Dad. I think it would have been easier to take the spanking.
Oh my goodness. That was my favorite story, I think, of all. Except for one other little one, which was a personal one. It wasn't a big one. But we had some people that lived in the neighborhood. You saw that, Becky and Nick saw that we had a rather nice home. At that time, we're talking Depression time. Other people were on, and Anna Mae, she knows, this was a girl, she was in our church here. No, there was another family. They were not a very, they were really kind of trashy, very much trashy. Poor sleeves. Oh, and anyhow, we were told we couldn't go over there. Well, I was over there, of course. And boy, word got over to me that Dad was home and he wanted to see me, which was curtains. I knew it. I dragged myself home and I got there and he said, I want to see you about something. And I was scared to death. And then I walked in and he had this most beautiful, I was only about 6 years old at the time. He had this little violin, you know, and he said, it's time for you to get started at music now. Everyone of us had an instrument, you know, and so on. And he just decided I was going to be a violinist. He played the violin, heaven forbid. And so anyhow, I got my little violin, and I didn't get a whipping that time. So that was kind of a personal little, you know, it turned out pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grandma, tell the one about this grandma. Tell the one about the Model T.
Oh, yeah. He came home with a brand new Model T. And I found a piece of chalk and I'm busy out there scribbling. And all of a sudden, Dad sees his brand new car all marked up. So he grabbed my butter and spanked the daylight.
Oh.
And Mama says, you know, I think Phyllis did that.
Uh-oh.
So, by golly, Phyllis finally got a spanking too. But Lawrence kind of resented me for a long time because
What'd you do to
Once
spank?
again.
he scribbled on
Oh,
it with
scribbled.
chalk.
How old were you?
Probably about 18, 2 years old.
Oh, okay.
See, he didn't
Yeah.
think I was old enough, but this kid.
What was that
Brand
huge
new
car that we had? It was, you know, it even had seats on the side.
Hupmobile.
Hupmobile. We had a huge Hupmobile that
Yeah.
that we had.
The only thing didn't think it should need a gas. So when we make a trip and we'd run out of gas, we'd climb out and push.
And one time, remember, a car ran in front of us, and in order to not get hit, in fact, I think we did kind of hit the horse, but then we kind of rolled into the ditch. Do you remember that with that Model
Yeah.
A? Yeah, we rolled into the ditch with you all rolled over together. We never went very fast, so nobody got hurt or anything. But boy, when Dad said jump, we all said, "Oh, hi," on the way up. And there was no question who was boss.
I met with Dorothy, was just a little tiny thing, and Dad hollered up the stairs and he said, "You kids ready?" And I looked over at Dorothy and she's crying, "I can't find my cookies! I can't find my cookies!"
For what?
Stocking.
Oh, her stocking.
Oh.
She meant stocking.
You said cocking?
My cookies.
My cookies. She thought it was funny and I was dying.
So I helped her, so she...
And then there's a time that he was forever telling us to hang up our clothes, keep your room picked up. It looks like a pig pen and so on and so on. One time we came home from school and all our clothes were out on the front lawn. He'd thrown them out the window. Everybody that went by saw our underwear and bras and everything. After that, we did a little bit better about picking up our clothes. And one time we went to the beach. Mother said, "We're going to have a good time. We're going to go. Remember, we're going to have a picnic at a lake, whatever. Anyhow, she was going to try to have a good time. Well, Dad, he didn't want to mess with anything like that. Too much work, too much mess, and I let the kids do their own thing. Blah blah blah." But anyhow, we all had to go, and we were marching down this lane, all of us in line, and all of a sudden, Dad yelled, "Wait a minute!" And we turned back, and he had a pair of panties he was holding up in the air. Somebody dropped something. It was one of you girls.
What idiot?
We never know. We were so embarrassed. And people all over. We were supposed to go get our underwear.
No, what about when they found out they were pregnant with Uncle Chuck and your mom was on the phone with your
Orphanage.
Yeah. Tell that story.
What? Well, Dorothy tells a little different, but the way I thought it happened is Mom belonging to the circle, like they have back in those days. She had to get rid of some homemade donuts they'd sell, make them and then sell them for the church, but some of them didn't get sold. She had to get rid of them, so she was calling the orphanage. And at that time, she was pregnant for the sixth time, and Dad was very happy about that. And we heard her calling the orphanage, and he said, "We don't give away muslers."
No, what did she say on the phone, though? Wasn't she saying something?
Well, she was just asking if they would want the donuts, and of course, Dad didn't hear what she was calling about. He just thought she was calling to give that baby he'd been bitching about. That's the way
I didn't hear it that way because I thought Mom told me, that he just made us stink all over the place because they were going to have another baby. Ranting and raving, They already have 5. What's she thinking of having another one? It's been 5 years since we've had one. Isn't that enough? And on and on. It's all Mother's fault.
Yeah.
So we did it, and he was screaming around. And later on, he came in, and she was writing a letter to them. It might have been about that. I don't know. But at any rate, he said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Oh, I'm just writing to the orphanage. See if they'll take this baby for us, And wow, she said, his mouth slammed shut, and I never heard another word after that. Another baby. She was an English lady, Mother was, and she was not a woman who very, very rarely ever blew her staff. She's very quiet person. And thank heavens, because Dad was very volatile. But one blessing we had, he traveled a lot. He was gone a lot. He'd be gone a week and home a week, right, Phyllis? Sometimes even more, sometimes 2 weeks and home a week, you know. And believe it or not, when he was gone, there was no problem with Mother disciplining us. I'll tell your father when he gets home, that's all it took, you know. Right? Except for Ralph, who was forever and ever. One time somebody came, we had a great big tree. Do they still have that great big tree in front of the house? That right in front of the house?
Yeah, there's a big tree.
What is there? Well, anyhow, it was big even when we lived there, and somebody came to the door and knocked and told Mother that, she said, you know, did you know somebody lost their pants, fell out of that big tree you have in front? She said, oh, really, is that right? She went out and it was Ralph. He fell, you know, clear up the top of the tree and he fell. There he wasn't before. What the heck is that?
Pearl. No, it's not.
The
I
cats.
saw the neighbor open the window and they freaked out.
That's nice.
But they had on New Year's Eve, they had what they call the powder house blast. Rather famous criminals were there at this powder house where they had a lot of, and anyhow they got in some kind of a fight and shot and blew up the powder. And you never heard such, it was terrible, wasn't it? The noise was like unbelievable with all this terminal of powder in there, you know, all kinds. But anyhow, the folks just figured it was Ralph again. He was down in the basement fooling around with
Oh my gosh.
with his chemistry set. He figured he blew up down there.
Wow.
Was he the one that was always getting in trouble doing crazy things?
Always and forever. He was walking on the railroad tracks up above the river down below there in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and the train came rushing down, and Ralph was walking along, so he had to get down underneath, you know, and hang on till that long, long train went by, and Loren was down below because he was always with him and chicken, you know, it could be always Loren was chicken, and he had to stand there and watch him hanging over the river, you know, while the train went by overhead.
Wow.
Yeah, but he was brilliant, Ralph, my brother was. I think Phyllis will get mad at me, but I think maybe he was the smartest of the whole bunch.
Well, he's the one that discovered Yttrium, the only substance they can use on the outside of space ships. He
That's what
discovered
it's called.
And
You never knew.
Yttrium.
Yttrium.
It's one of the 7 rare earth metals, and he worked night and day at the Bureau of Mines in Oregon there. It's in Albany, is it? I think. And anyhow, and working on it to determine if it would, if when the shuttle went up there, if it got so close to the sun, that's what their problem was, that it would burn up. And so he was able to do that. But one time when he went in there, something happened. There was an accident, and he, of course, always, I've seen pictures of him. Anyhow, he was rushed to the hospital, and he was all right. I think he was burned. But the thing is that his hands, showing him, it was Yttrium next to the fire or whatever it was, you know, where he kept going and increasing the heat, to see that it burned. They have a picture of his hand, but in the, what's the name of the very famous, you know, Encyclopedia Britannica. It's in there, but it's not his name. They gave the credit to the guy who was the head of the department. Yeah, but Ralph's the one that did all the work. He's the one. Brilliant mind, really.
That's the way it goes.
So, what about your growing up and all your dates? I bet you guys have some good stories about the faces.
I know.
Well, did he have a boyfriend? Oh, Chuck knew it. He would get his trombone and run up to the phone and go,
And Ralph, when I would answer the phone and he would get twine of bologna.
That's a good one.
Funny.
That's a good
What
one.
about the steak you gave to Grandpa when he was asking for a steak in a hurry? Come on, you like telling that one.
Well, yeah,
There was company over, right?
yeah, it was after he had his stroke and he had no patience. And if he got hungry, he'd want it now. And so I had Leslie over there. I invited her to lunch. That was Steve's wife. And just kind of getting acquainted with it. And he went into a tantrum and he wanted something to eat. He says, I want a steak and I want it now. So I went to the freezer and tossed the steak at him and says, here you are. Frozen.
What about the ketchup bottle?
No.
Come on, I won't ask anymore. Just tell that one.
I remember. I
Back
remember
on.
when Edie had, John came to dinner, and my sister, her husband, John, and he's from New York, and he was, and he always and forevermore, he kind of a wisecracking smart aleck, but he's a good-looking guy, and she was your bride, and, it's customary after church you'd invite any of the GIs you wanted to home with you. This was the last place they were going before their port of deportation, and they would be going over to overseas and into battle, no doubt about it. And so it was a wonderful thing to be invited, and they encouraged us to invite any number of GIs to your home. Well, John came, and so the folks, are very religious, and we were all seated around with our Sunday best and everything, and Dad says, and we'll bow our heads in prayer. And John, would you like to like to say grace? And John said, sure. And so we all bowed our heads, and he says, grace.
Oh my gosh.
And so John was on everybody's list.
Yeah. Don't you have a lot of
Remember
stories?
that? Oh, yeah.
Don't you have a lot of stories about how you guys used to date all of the guys that would come while they were? And then you'd pass them around if you
Yeah,
didn't
we
like
did. We dated each other's boyfriends. And one time I dated a guy that you had dated, and you went out, not only you went out and had Cokes or something. And I came home and I had this wonderful box of chocolates, this huge box of chocolate. I'd gone to the chocolate shop. Remember our one and only really good restaurant in Sioux Falls?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got this wonderful box of chocolates. Actually, it was in the shape of a piano. And you lift up the lid of the grand piano, and there were all these chocolates.
Yeah.
And boy, were you mad, because I made out with this fabulous box of chocolates, and you only got Cokes or something. Yeah, but we didn't exchange boyfriends too often, because it was a town of 30,000 people, and there were at least 30,000 people there at the air base. Can you imagine a town with that many?
How many guys? When the boys were little and they had a friend, our bedrooms were upstairs. The two boys were in one bedroom, and in the other bedroom was we three girls. Well, I had a bed of my own, but Edith and Dorothy were in the same bed. So anyhow, these boys got a hose, and it was about the time of the Lindbergh kidnapping. Now, I suppose that's long before your time, but Lindbergh, a famous spy, and somebody kidnapped his baby, and it was in the papers. So, of course, all of us kids, thought, my goodness, maybe we might be kidnapped. So we were pretty much nervous about that whole ordeal. Anyhow,
Thank you.
so late at night, after we all got quiet, pretty soon we heard, get out of there. Get out of there. I knew I was the oldest. It was up for me to turn on the light, so I ran and turned over the other. Turned on the light, and you were Edith and Dorothy at the foot of the bed. So I said, I think I better go get Mom. So anyhow, it didn't take her long to figure out that it was the boys, and they had this hose hooked up from their room.
And they were talking
to the window. Hey, she goes in their room, boy, the covers are going like this. Yeah, that was Ralph's doing. That was just a picture under the covers, thinking they were so clever. That's cute. Oh, yeah.
See, I feel kind of sorry because Chuck missed out on a lot of that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He was so much younger.
He always felt badly about that, and as he was older, he kept trying to get to know the family better. Remember? He kept trying to know his brothers better and make an effort to. But then the rest of us all looked on Chuck as the golden boy, because of course by the time most of us had peeled out of there, then it's when as Chuck got older, and I know that I will never get over going into shock when I went home when I was teaching and came home and saw, of all things, Chuck sprawled out on the couch in the living room. I mean, lying on the couch in the living room. Come on now. You didn't do things like that. And not only that, Dad went in and talked to him and never said anything.
No.
Yeah. I mean,
You guys weren't even allowed in there? Or were you allowed?
Heavens, no.
What?
Not with our feet or shoes on the davenport floor. Yeah. You sat on the davenport floor, you idiot.
I'm sorry.
That's what I mean. I can imagine. And then Dad seeing him lying down on that, he was golden boy. There is no doubt about it. But, and Chuck was good looking, and then he played football, and it was just a different, entirely different thing. Loren was always very quiet, very polite, very sweet, but introverted, and stay out of Dad's way, always. And Ralph, stupid, he was just, he'd barrel into anything, anytime getting into trouble here. One time, like even in high school, I remember one time they got him down into the office and bawled him out because we had 3 stories to the high school, and he just loved to get to the top, the levels of school, where the kids were, where we were. But then he'd spit. You see if he could spit all the way down on the ones on the first floor walking by.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez. And Ralph always had a curiosity. I think that's why he discovered Yttrium. But he'd have to check on all the garbage cans around the neighborhood to see what was in them. And for one reason or another, he was always late when it come time for supper. And he got spanked for it, but he still showed up late. So whenever he'd come in and he was late, and of course he'd have to go upstairs and get his spanking with the razor strap, Edith would start crying and wet her pants. He'd take him down to the basement, and they gave him, but then there was a window and from the basement, and so you could sit down in there, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but you could see in the window that goes to the basement. And she'd sit there and watch him get that licking and cry and cry. It was unnerving for Dad to be beating away at Ralph, when she's up there bawling her head off. But what tickled that, Edie was always so chicken about everything, and Dad's idea of entertaining us was, turn us upside down, let us walk on the ceiling. That wasn't so much fun.
Yeah, I don't think he was probably happy about that.
She was always so chicken.
And I remember, I was telling Phyllis the other day, I remember we were having kind of a study table, and Dad was sitting there reading whatever, and Edith was joining the Girl Scouts, and so because they felt she really needed something, different. The rest of us were involved so much with our music, and she says, Dorothy, she was reading her Girl Scout book, and she says, Dorothy, what is MENSTRUAT? Got it? ION. Dad says, Edith. See your mother about that. Oh gosh. So
that was girl stuff.
Yeah, it was. But he was a pretty good father in some ways. I mean, at least he was interested. He was interested in his kind of bullheaded way about. And if any of us ever accomplish something,
putting each one of us on an instrument, he believed in culture. And it was during the Depression. And man, they barely had enough money for food, but Dad insisted we should all have music. And the oldest one, Loren put on the cornet, and I on the piano, Ralph on the sax and the drum, and Edith on the clarinet, Dorothy on the violin, and Chuck on the trombone. We all had our instruments, we all had lessons.
Wow.
Did you ever all play together?
Big sacrifice.
That was.
Back
Boy.
in those days.
Did you ever all play together, Grandma? Did you ever all play together?
We had a family orchestra, remember?
But the biggest problem was that the oldest one was so much better than the youngest one. We couldn't decide what to play.
Chuck played the drums. He was just about, 6 years old or something. We have pictures of him, but he could keep very good rhythm. So, War March of the Priest.
Ralph played the drums too.
You'd recognize that. But the worst moment Phyllis and I had, she may not care to have me tell about it, but I was taking my lessons. I think I was in high school at the conservatory at the Sioux Falls College. And my teacher asked me, the college had their regular college hour, on the radio. And he asked me if I would play a solo as part of the, though I was in college, but I was a student there at it. So we practiced together, and Phyllis and I went to play it. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yes. She remembers what happened. And we went through the piece, and then we were supposed to go back and repeat. And somehow, I guess you forgot to repeat or something anyhow. I went along back and took my repeat. And here we are on the radio, and she did not go back and repeat. You went somewhere else, I don't know where. And so she was playing one piece, and I was playing another one, and we were representing Sioux Falls College Music Department. And it was horrible. Horrible. She didn't know what to do, and I didn't know what to do. We both kept playing. I think the guy finally tuned us out.
He was stubborn, wouldn't stop.
And so then, after it was over, do you remember that the man who was in charge of it invited us to come back? And he showed us, he was very nice and sweet about, this is how it works with the radio, just like nothing ever happened. However, I went back to take my next music lesson. And my music teacher, oh, brother, what happened? I don't know. I really, but it was the worst moment, you forgot to repeat, I think.
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
Wow.
Funny thing.
Well, we didn't have to go back and do it again.
We went through some rough moments, but she, marvelous musician, absolutely fabulous.
Still is.
Yeah, still playing.
And she
Yeah,
played
to
that.
listen.
Oh yeah, you gotta play for us sometime.
Well, she
Not
played.
tonight, but you'll have to
No,
play
I
for us.
Yes, nice.
Great job.
Play. You can imagine when she was in high school, probably about 17 years old, 18 years old, she soloed with the orchestra, and she played Rhapsody in Blue, which are just out. And boy, that's a tremendously difficult number. Just a high school kid played that number for the company, and it was marvelous. She did a marvelous job. Wonderful musician, still is.
Yeah.